Hi folks, today we're going to talk about, in the context of a little bit of this final material we're looking at, actually in terms of what we're looking at, in terms of the one poem, Lorna Dee Cervantes' for Virginia Chavez, but we're going to look at events that mold us, things that shape our lives, or fail to. Let's get some context. Let's think about that. Hey, quite typically, sometime in your adolescence or young adulthood, there will be some big event that may stand out. Always stand out because it's set your perspective, your attitude toward your life. It can be a great big deal that turns your world upside down. Hey, I will not forget April 30th through May 4th, 1970. That was when our then President Richard Nixon invaded Cambodia. There were intense reactions to it, and May 4th, the Kent State massacre. Those turned my life over. They created painful scenes that I would always remember. That's the big telling event, the life transition, the one that turns your whole life upside down, or at least you think it did. Other folks have other things that just reinforce their life the way they want it, or some folks can go through these big moments and everything just runs off them like water off a duck's back and all that. It's the range of possibilities, but we think about it because this stands out so we can look at the way people in literature handle those moments or those longer standing transitions, those seasons. This was the summer when I, or something like that. Now, quite famously, a lot of you should be familiar with this book, J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. Kind of a classic, very much a classic of adolescent angst as Holden Caulfield confronts all the hypocrisy and such of the adult world. Hey, man, grow up, get used to it. This is not a clean, shiny, and perfect world, not a clean, shiny, and perfect universe, not in that conception. It's going to grate against you. Live with it. Salinger's Caulfield is an adolescent, responds to it like an adolescent, not constructively. Not much happens to him. He's just railing at the world at the beginning and at the end, and he hasn't grown up. And I look at the book, and I'm inclined to say, so what? Most critics take him very seriously, and I'm more interested in real insights, such as I name a film not well known, John Sayles' Matewan. It is largely, well, in portions narrated, offered through the perspective of an adolescent observing the events at Matewan. Matewan, the year that the U.S. government opened fire on a band of striking coal miners. Before that, the violence there between Union and thugs and the miners and such. Now, that film, the adolescent at the end changes. That is, discovers, learns, meets a real hero. Joe Kinahan, who is martyred in the violence, Kinahan, union activist, and adamant pacifist. One of the only figures we see not carrying a gun in this little movie. Hey, someone who matters. What about other things we experience? We're looking at T.C. Boyle's Greasy Lake and looking at that protagonist, and you will look at him and discover what a damn fool he's making of himself. And at the end, does any of this sink in? Well, he's scared into behaving a little better at the end. But is there grand enlightenment or even minor enlightenment? No. He just gets scared. Language with which he refers to other people and such demonstrate no, he has not learned a damn thing. So, does our big moment offer growth, genuine change, or anything like that? The critic can conclude, well, I would conclude this. I'm a very negative critic towards Salinger, and I think my reading of Boyle is pretty perceptive on this, that, Holden Caulfield in the Salinger novel just doesn't make any real choice or existential decision. We just have an adolescent at the end, so what? Inspiration, however, and we can find other pieces, other novels, poems and such offering kind of genuine inspiration. Like John Sayles' Adolescent. Hey, within the fiction of the story, he's a fictional character. Within that fiction, Kinahan was real, heroic, and offered a particular picture that is so worthwhile because the other heroes, Sid Hatfield out there with guns blazing, taking on the Baldenfelds detectives, shooting down the men who murdered Matewan's mayor. Guns blazing. No, our adolescent sees something better than guns blazing. Kinahan would change the world with words, quiet deeds, fashion we associate with Dr. King. That boy discovered a real hero. That's real discovery. Then there's, Boyle, with that postmodern splash of cynicism of his, his protagonist does not learn a damn thing. Well, does Holden Caulfield learn a damn thing? Not very much. None are so blind as those who would not see. Now, poem that I promised we would talk about does something else with this coming-of-age kind of thing. For Virginia Chavez, or to Virginia Chavez, an adolescent year, we get the narration, memory from our adult narrator of being 14, and it's a big year for her and her friend. It's kind of their point of divergence, occasioned by life. Hey, we meet them. They're latchkey kids in this Chicana culture. They're independent-minded, sexually active before they should be. And we see the scene of them drinking Chavez's mother's whiskey in the late night alone at age 14. Best friends. It even appears the narrator has a crush on her friend, that is, sexually desirous of Virginia Chavez, but that's not a big deal, big part of things. There are more important parts. The more important parts being our narrator wants a life different than the one she's living and has some idea of the direction. She's an avid reader, talks about reading poetry, talks about letting a child within her die, about growing up that summer. Possibly there's a reference to an abortion here, but we're not quite sure. But Virginia Chavez, yes, she listens to this, but Virginia Chavez not only is sexually active, she is pregnant. and she is going to have a baby. What are the consequences? Well, narrator, we see her as an adult at the end, independent, college degree, this world of books, stability, and all of this. Chavez had children, just beaten by her husband or her boyfriend and abandoned. The children were taken. She's told she'll never see them again. She is in this bookless room, bare bulb, bare light bulb, that is no ornament, nothing. Her life, yes, a wreck. Far too typical sort of wreck, as such things occur. What do we see from the poem? Something of a mirror. The lives are mirrored in that for the narrator, this is very much a there but for fortune go I. This could have been me. This was my friend, my world. This is what I have had the good fortune to avoid. This is still my friend. For all our paths have separated, for all good fortune has come to me. So, my point, and putting this mess together, these two segments of this little lecture, choices matter. Life has turning points, discovery. At some point, many of us, and it makes fodder for good narratives, good quality ones, we choose. What is our life going to be? There is some moment that matters. And so we see these big choices.